During a family reunion, my father-in-law publicly accused me of stealing from the family fund. He held up forged statements, and my husband backed him. "You don't belong in this bloodline," my FIL spat. I was disowned that day. But 3 months later, on his retirement party, I walked in holding the one person who could end them all. My name's Rachel Langford, or it used to be, before they tore my life apart like it meant nothing. I'm from outside of Augusta, Georgia. Raised by a single mom who taught me how to fight with my head, not my fists. I worked my way up. Got a degree, landed a decent job, didn't ask anyone for anything. That's who I was when I met Marcus. Marcus Langford came from money. Big Southern law family. Fancy last name, old money, tight circle. When we started dating, I thought I hit the jackpot, not for the cash, but because he seemed different. Smart. Kind. Grounded. But looking back now, I realize I ignored a lot of red flags. He never stood up to his dad. He let his mom talk down to me. He'd say stuff like, "You know how they are, just let it go." For 7 years, I played my part. Attended all the events, dressed right, smiled through the weird stares and polite insults. They never saw me as one of them. But I was used to earning my place, so I kept trying. Then came the family reunion. It was held at their estate outside Savannah. Huge white mansion, long driveway, American flag out front. The whole Langford bloodline showed up. Some of them I'd never even met. Marcus said his dad was planning a big announcement. I thought maybe he was retiring early. He was in his late 60s, and always talking about passing the torch. I wish that's all it was. About halfway through the lunch, Gerald stood up. Everyone went quiet. He raised his wine glass and started talking about trust and family values. His voice was steady, like he was giving a closing argument in court. That's when he dropped the hammer. He said someone had been stealing from the family fund. That fund was some legacy account his great-grandfather set up, basically a pool of money used for family needs. I'd heard about it, but I'd never touched it. I wasn't even listed as part of the financial committee. Then he pulled out papers. Printouts. He held them up and said my name. I'm sorry to say this, but Rachel's been helping herself to funds that weren't hers to touch. At first, I laughed. I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke or some mistake. I looked around. Everyone was staring at me. Some whispering. Some frozen. I stood up. This is ridiculous. I don't even have access to that account. Gerald didn't flinch. Bank statements say otherwise. You were added as an authorized user by Marcus last year. That's when I looked at my husband. Marcus, you know I didn't do this. He didn't even meet my eyes. I checked the transactions. They line up with your login. That's when my chest caved in. He had that look, like this wasn't new to him. Like they'd already had their little trial and decided I was guilty. I said, "Why wouldn't you come to me first? Why would you believe this over me?" Marcus finally looked at me. Cold. Because I know what you're capable of. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But all I could do was stand there, humiliated in front of dozens of people. Gerald walked closer. You don't belong in this bloodline. That was it. He didn't say I could explain. He didn't ask questions. Just threw me out like trash. No one said a word to stop him. Marcus didn't follow me out. Sharon didn't look at me. His sisters avoided my gaze. I walked off that property with nothing but a purse, a phone with 8% battery, and a heart ready to tear itself out. The next few days were a blur. I stayed with my friend Holly outside Macon. She let me crash on her couch. I was numb. I couldn't eat. Couldn't think. Just kept replaying it over and over, how easily they turned on me. How fast Marcus gave me up. But then I started digging. I wasn't going to let this slide. I needed to know what happened. I requested copies of the proof. Marcus refused. So did Gerald. But one of Marcus's younger cousins, Sam, texted me 2 weeks later. Said he never believed the story. He offered to get me a copy of the forged statements. When I saw them, everything clicked. The signature? Definitely not mine. The login timestamps? Impossible. I'd been at work. I had badge scans. Emails sent from my work laptop. And then I remembered, 6 months ago, Marcus had asked for my login password just in case. Said he wanted to check on some shared investments. I gave it to him. Like an idiot. It was him. Or someone working with him. And Gerald knew. They planned it. But why? That's when I found out Gerald was retiring. Quietly. Within the next 3 months. And he was handing over full control of the fund to Marcus. But there was a catch: no scandals. No loose ends. Clean family name. And me? I wasn't clean enough. They needed me out. So they made something up to destroy me. They thought I'd disappear. They didn't know I was raised by a fighter. I started collecting evidence. Emails. Time cards. Digital forensics. I hired a guy I knew from college who worked in IT security. He helped me recover deleted files from my cloud. I found messages Marcus sent to a third-party account, likely some shell name, referencing clearing out the problem. I had what I needed. But I wasn't going to the police. Not yet. Because Gerald's big retirement party was coming up in 3 months. And I had the perfect guest to bring. I knew if I went to the cops, it'd become a long, quiet battle. They'd lawyer up. Delay. Spin it until I looked like a bitter ex. That wouldn't be justice. I wanted everyone to see what they did. I wanted them to feel what I felt: shame, betrayal, isolation, right there, surrounded by the same people who clapped while they dragged me through the dirt. So I waited. I planned. I dug deeper. The IT guy I hired, his name's Theo, managed to crack into a backup Marcus forgot to lock down. That's where we found the real stuff. Not just the fake transfers, but emails between Marcus and Gerald. One stood out. She'll go quietly. She always does. And another, from Gerald. Once I pass it on to you, clean house. No outsiders. She was a weak link. They didn't just frame me. They talked about me like I was garbage. Like I didn't exist outside of what I could offer them. I wasn't sure how far Marcus was willing to go, until Theo found out who the actual beneficiary of the stolen funds was. A woman named Melanie Cross. That name hit me hard. Melanie was Marcus's coworker at his firm. Younger, fresh out of law school, blonde and flirty. I used to joke with him about how she had a crush on him. He always said I was being paranoid. Turns out, she wasn't just a coworker. She was pregnant. The money Marcus stole in my name? It was going toward a new apartment for Melanie in Atlanta. Gerald knew. He helped him set it up. They were making sure his new family had a fresh start, by ruining mine. So I tracked her down. I didn't threaten her. I didn't even yell. I just told her the truth. That I was Marcus's wife, still legally married, and that the money she thought was coming from some family bonus had actually been funneled by fraud in my name. She looked like she'd been hit by a train. She invited me in. That's when she admitted something I didn't expect. She didn't know Marcus was still with me. She thought I had already left. He told her I was some unstable ex trying to hold on to him for money. He lied to both of us. And then she told me something that changed everything. She was keeping the baby. But Marcus had started pulling away. He told her the family wanted him to take care of the problem and not let it get in the way of his legacy. Gerald was behind that too. She said, I thought I was building a future. But I'm just part of a cover-up. I saw the way her hands shook. She wasn't my enemy. She was another one of Gerald's pawns. So I asked her to help me. She agreed. 3 months later, the Langfords held Gerald's retirement party. A black tie event at the Savannah Yacht Club. Big venue, big crowd, all the usual snakes in suits. I waited outside until the speeches were about to begin. Then I walked in. Not alone. I was holding a car seat. Inside was Melanie's 6-week-old baby boy. Marcus's son. And she was right beside me. Heads turned. Murmurs spread like wildfire. You could feel the shift in the air as soon as people recognized me. Sharon nearly dropped her glass. Gerald's voice caught in his throat mid-sentence. What the hell is this? I walked straight to the stage. I think your guest should hear this, Gerald. Security tried to step in, but Melanie handed one of them a copy of the notarized documents we brought, financial records, bank statements, and a letter from her attorney. Legal enough to freeze anyone. Then she took the mic. I'm Melanie Cross. I'm the woman Marcus Langford got pregnant while he was still married to Rachel. And I'm here to tell you this baby, she looked at the boy, was paid for with money stolen in Rachel's name. The room went dead quiet. Gerald shouted, "This is outrageous." But Melanie kept going. Calm. Clear. Cold. We have email records, financial logs, and full digital forensics. Rachel was framed. By your son. With your help. That's when I stepped forward. And I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to watch everything you built fall apart, piece by piece. Marcus was standing near the front. Pale. Mouth open. He tried to speak. I threw a file at his feet. Hope your new family likes prison visits. You forged my name, you used my logins, and you used a fund protected under state and federal law. That's felony fraud. I've already filed charges. Someone gasped. Then Gerald snapped. You're bluffing. I pulled out a flash drive and gave it to the local reporter standing nearby. One who always covered the Langford family's events. I said loud enough for the crowd, every lie. Every forged file. Every transaction. All of it's in there. You didn't just mess with the wrong woman. You underestimated her. The reporter stepped out to call her editor. Gerald tried to rush down from the stage. His leg gave out. He nearly fell. Sharon was crying. I looked them all in the eyes, every cousin, every aunt, every polished fake smile. I might not have been born into this bloodline. But after today, none of you will want to admit you were either. After I dropped the flash drive into that reporter's hand, the room turned into a live crime scene in slow motion. People didn't know where to look. I saw Gerald gripping the side of the podium like it was the only thing holding him up. Marcus looked like he was about to puke. But I wasn't done. The twist? The real one? The baby in the car seat wasn't actually Marcus's. I found that out a week before the party. Melanie had started having doubts after everything came out. I told her to get a DNA test before she gave her full trust to me, or to anyone. She agreed. Turns out, she had been with someone else, very briefly, during the early weeks of her pregnancy. She thought it didn't matter. She thought it had to be Marcus's. It wasn't. That baby wasn't even a Langford. But I didn't tell anyone, not yet. Because the idea of Marcus having a secret child with another woman, paid for with stolen money, was all it took to blow the house down. That baby was a symbol. And I used it. Because the Langfords cared more about image than truth. When I exposed them, I didn't just bring a baby into a party. I brought shame. Public, loud, and permanent. And here's where things got even more interesting. That flash drive? It didn't just have forged statements and emails. It had years of hidden accounting files from the Langford family fund. See, once Theo broke in, we realized this wasn't the first time money went missing. This had been going on for years. Gerald had been moving money from the fund into shell nonprofits and trusts, most of them linked to former clients, fake charities, and even political campaigns. Money laundering. Tax fraud. Full-blown criminal activity. I didn't understand all of it, but Theo did. He built the case. Quietly. Cleanly. He even found 2 whistleblowers, former employees of Gerald's firm who were fired when they asked questions about disappearing audits. I brought them to the party too. They stood in the back, quiet. One of them had a small camera running. By the time Gerald started shouting again, his voice was hoarse. She's lying. This is all lies. She's trying to ruin this family. And that's when Melanie finally delivered the finishing blow. She stepped forward, holding her phone up. Funny you say that. Because here's your voice on voicemail. She hit play. It was Gerald's voice. From a month ago. A message he accidentally left on her phone when he thought he hung up. We just need to get her out of the way. Tell Marcus to handle it. We can't have this little accident screw up the transfer. That was all it took. Police didn't arrest anyone on the spot, it's not TV. But by the end of the night, Gerald had been served with a notice of formal investigation. His accounts were frozen. The press had a field day. But that wasn't even the biggest twist. A week later, I got a call. It was Sharon. His wife. She wanted to meet. I agreed, but only in public. We sat down at a diner in Tybee Island. She looked tired. Hollow. I didn't know, she said. Not everything. But I knew you didn't steal that money. I didn't want to believe what it would mean if you didn't. She slid an envelope across the table. It was a handwritten letter. From Gerald. The day after the party. He didn't apologize. But he confessed. Admitted the plan. The framing. The fund manipulation. Even admitted that he pushed Marcus into it, promising him full control of the firm if he cleaned up the Rachel problem. I could have taken that letter to court. Instead, I gave it to the state attorney's office, along with everything else. They launched a full investigation. Quiet at first. But it would get loud. I'd make sure of it. And as for Marcus? He sent me one message after that night. All it said was, "You made your point." I never replied. He filed for divorce 2 weeks later. I signed without blinking. I made sure the court saw everything. He lost his job, and the firm was under audit. Melanie moved away with her baby. I still check in with her now and then. She got a new job in Charlotte. Clean start. No more Langfords. And me? I didn't just clear my name. I burned the whole tree down. But I wasn't done yet. Because just when they thought it couldn't get worse, I discovered one more thing, and it involved someone the Langfords never thought I'd look at twice, Sharon. When Sharon slid that envelope to me in that diner, I thought that was it. Confession, closure, justice in motion. But then she said something that made my stomach turn. I know what Gerald did to you was wrong. But he did it for the family. We needed to protect the name. The name. Not the truth. Not her son's mess. Not the people hurt along the way. The Langford name. That was the only thing she cared about. She tried to sound soft, almost kind. But I saw right through it. Her hands weren't clean. She just wore gloves better than the others. So I went digging one last time. And what I found? It turned everything upside down. See, Gerald might have been the face of the Langford empire, but Sharon, she was the one who managed the family trust. The one that fed into the family fund. She had the passwords. The power. And for years, she'd been quietly transferring money to a Langford Women's Legacy Foundation. Looked legit. Had a website, even some PR photos of charity dinners. Except it didn't exist. It was a shell. And it led to a private account in the Cayman Islands. One with her name on it. And 2 others. Marcus. And Melanie. Melanie had no idea. She thought the money was support. Gifts. But Sharon had been funneling money into that account for over 2 years. Before the affair, before the pregnancy. Before they tried to destroy me. Which meant one thing, they were preparing for me to be gone for a long time. They never planned to just kick me out. They wanted me erased, replaced. A new wife, a new baby, and no mess in the books. I was in the way. And when Melanie's pregnancy came along, it wasn't a complication, it was an opportunity. It made me sick. But I also knew what I had to do. I handed everything, emails, wire logs, screenshots, IP logs, over to the State Financial Crimes Division. Quietly. Then I made one final move. I sued. Not for money. For libel and defamation. Every false accusation. Every public word. Every forged statement. Every person they told I was a thief. It hit them where it hurt the most, public image. Gerald's name was still on buildings, scholarships, libraries. And now it was tied to a fraud investigation and a lawsuit from his ex-daughter-in-law. It made headlines. More whistleblowers came forward. The law firm folded. Marcus was disbarred. Sharon was indicted. Melanie gave a statement under oath, clearing her name and confirming every detail I'd given. Gerald, facing jail time, collapsed in his driveway 2 weeks before trial. Heart attack. He survived, but just barely. Wheelchair-bound. No more legacy to protect. Just lawsuits and silence. The Langford estate? Sold at auction. The yacht club stripped Gerald's name off their donor's wall. All that power. All that pride. Gone. And me? I moved back to Augusta. Started fresh. Got my name back, my own name. No more Langford. I started a non-profit for women wrongfully accused in financial abuse cases. Turns out, it happens more than people think. Especially to women in marriages like mine. I'm not rich. I don't live in a mansion. But every day, I wake up knowing I didn't just survive what they did to me. I ended them. And if you're reading this, thinking about the people who wronged you, just know. The truth has sharp teeth. And when it finally bites back, it never misses.